Right now, we're about to find out your pick for the best set or location.
Isn't it obvious?
Do we want to say it at the same time?
We'll 3, 2, 1. The
Hair
airy.
in hell. What?
God damn it.
Hello, and welcome to the Lizzys, our Fast and Loose award show honoring the very best of Dragon media. What are we talking about today, Bryce?
Austin, as always, we're talking dragons, but we're talking the best of dragons. We're talking the best of dragon sequences. We're talking the best of dragon fit picks. And we are talking about giving out the largest, some would say the greatest award that ever was or ever will be in dragon media, the Big Lizzy best episode.
For House of the Dragon Season 2.
Again, fast and loose. We have fun with it. But before we dive into our awards, we promised the people our breakdown.
Yes, a little discussion, because in recording our podcast episodes on the main show, that's a pretty raw, like immediate reaction.
Yes.
We give ourselves like half an hour to get our notes together, and then we're into the recording.
Yes.
So having had, as of this recording, about 48 hours to digest the season overall, I have some thoughts. I'm sure that you do too.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, let's just get right into it. So Bryce, what did you think of House of the Dragon Season 2 overall?
So I do believe that I was very harsh on the show. I'm going to continue to be harsh until we get to Season 3. I don't think it's as much of a gut reaction that I got. There's things that were brought to light that, like, we do have to remember that there was a strike going on, and this definitely did have some effects. The strike.
That's a bit of an oversight, I think, that we never brought that up.
Yes.
Because I'll let you finish here, but let me just interject that I think this season 2 of House of the Dragon, was exceptional in pretty much every aspect except for the writing.
Yes.
Which is maybe the biggest aspect of all.
Yes.
But like tonight, that's the whole point of this show, is we're going to be honoring a lot of like the technical aspects, which I'm not even sure that those are matched anywhere else on television.
Yes.
But again, with the writing, there's a little bit to be desired. So finish what you're saying.
Well, I just want to dive in a little bit on that because, also, real quick, I know we tried to pit you guys against each other a little bit to do the best comment of all. Out of love and respect for the community, we are choosing to make you all the winners of the best comment, because you all give the best comments.
That's our twist ending, is the winner for Best House of the Dragon sub-community is Big Flying Lizards, a Dragon Movie television podcast. Let's go.
But one of the comments that a regular Maya Iggs made was that they were disappointed on how a lot of these female characters were written. And they honestly believe that if it wasn't for the performances that Cook, D'Arcy, if it wasn't for how they performed, the show would have been garbage. And I think that's where I'm landing on. The show was amazing in visual effects. The show was amazing in there is no weak links in actors and actresses in this show. Like, everybody is performing at the top of their game, but the writing is just, it's just not there.
Which that comes across in like the dialogue, which there are good moments and there are those that leave a little bit to be desired, as we're saying. But it's not just the dialogue. It's like the setups, the structure of the season overall. And it's a big critique that I have looking at the season, that the character pair-ups are not the most ideal, I would have to say. And in our episode, we discussed how Kristen Cole and Sir Gawain Hightower was the best example that this season had to offer.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a shame, because Well, I mean, you could say Laris and Aegon seem to have something sort of cooking, but then like Aegon and Aemond, anytime that those two are butting heads, it's incredible. Like that's something that I really wish we would have seen more of. Alicent and Rhaenyra, anytime they're in the same room, that's fireworks. But then even to get there were a lot of contrivances that, I mean, I think I'm a little more okay with it than some, but even I'm like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense in episode 8 and episode 3.
Yes.
So the writing, I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Yes. I do think that, again, I think that's what's because I compared this season to season 6 for a Game of Thrones. And I think we could both agree that that was where it was really starting to struggle as well, was the writing in season 6 was
no doubt
one of the big issues. And again, that's why we need to respect our writers, because if we want good, we want good results.
Then these people need to be paid. Listen.
If we don't pay them, we get mediocre seasons. I mean, it's not a mediocre season.
The issue is it like to be seen how big it was a true issue, because yes. I've actually come over to your side a little bit more in that I do think that this season was a pretty big letdown, where, I mean, I'm not to spoil anything here, but I think it's fair to say that like the big action play that they did in this season was in episode 4.
Yeah.
Which was cool, and it was bigger than anything in season 1. But I'm just imagining if one of any of these like big battle sequences that they keep teasing had actually happened in this season, that could have just made this like one of the greatest seasons of Westeros content ever. And instead we had, you know, that peak there and a few little ones throughout the season, and then it just kind of ends on a big trailer for the next season, which is it's a letdown. And I think that there's still room for this to end up being a great show in its like greater run, but taking season 2 on its own without season 1 for all the work it did there or what's promised to come in future seasons, I think it's a pretty serious step down from the first one.
Yes, in that aspect of this, it's a step down. And I feel like on this show, we're not Ryan haters by any means. We enjoy Ryan. We've definitely laughed a little bit.
He's the biggest wig of them all in the room. So you have to give the guy credit when something happens in the show that you like, or something to the other end.
But to give him a little grace, I think if they were, again, I know you said that they could have done less episodes, but I believe if they were given those 2 episodes for a 10-episode season, we would have gotten one of those big build-up moments.
I think so.
And this finale would have been a lot more satisfying.
Yes. And it sounds like maybe there's some behind-the-scenes stuff with HBO that made that happen, to where they only got the 8 episodes, but not like they didn't have the writer support to be able to handle that issue with the rewrites and all of that. So they're basically like, okay, we're just going to run the first 8 episodes of this season that we had planned, and season 3 is going to be a super season.
Yes.
Well, but I mean, I'm not saying that that's an excuse for the end result, but it maybe makes it a little bit more understandable.
I will say this. I hope that they don't take the wrong lessons from the backlash, because there has been quite a backlash
a little bit
online, and I don't want them to come in and be like, okay, no, like we need to throw all the action in, even if there's no build up. Because I have I know some of these situations, they tend to overcorrect, and we both say we love the politicking. We love, again, this is a tease to what's to come. One of my favorite moments in this season is Aegon dismissing Otto. Like, that scene is like, I could watch that scene over and over again, not just because it's to Otto, but Rhys Ifans is just energy that he's bringing, and then Tom's energy that he's bringing back. It's just the chemistry in that moment, and it's all just, and it's not,
it's just the people, no dragons, minimal special effects work in that, and it's magic. I agree with you. One of the best scenes in the entire season. That is one aspect to the show.
Yes.
And it's part of the Game of Thrones formula that you need these huge, epic action sequences in combination with like intense character drama. So you can't just fully lean on one or the other. Is I think what you're getting at.
Yes. And there's one thing that I will push, because there's some people saying, oh, you can't have a battle episode in every single. I'm like, you're right. There can't be a battle episode. But there were plenty of off-screen fights going on that we weren't made aware of. And if we only get one big fight, as amazing as Rook's Rest was, I would have enjoyed at least seeing like a skirmish. Like even if for the Burning Mill, if we just saw, instead of them panning out, maybe we saw like a sort of situation where it's like the last stab and like a Bracken soldier like steps back and he's just in a field. Like I'd even be okay with something along those lines. But when you just literally only get one sequence of an actual battle scene, I think that's
a bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on the season overall? I think that pretty well wraps up my thoughts before we get into more specifics here.
The critique's over. Y'all did amazing with the dragons. The dragon game.
Oh, baby.
The dragons, they got better. Like, I feel like there was a noticeable, not that they were bad in season 1 because they weren't, but they looked a lot more alive.
I agree. And
like,
it's more than you would expect from a 2-year distance.
Yes.
Between seasons.
And
like a notable leap.
And especially where you're bringing even more dragons into the mix. So, I mean, we're going to talk about it in our next video of our dragon breakdown, but just how incredible some of these new dragons look and just how good, because it's not even that they touched it up, but they made it so like Caraxes looked amazing. Vhagar looked amazing. Like all these dragons just looked incredible.
Well, you're getting to my initial point that on a technical level, this show is one of the like front runners on television right now.
Yes.
And that is in fact what we are about to honor in this here Lizzy ceremony. So why don't we just dive into it?
Yeah,
yes, of course. First,
this is to the Lizzys, if you want to take a sip while I discuss how this wasn't an amazing season, and cheers to that.
Delicious. Cheers to our show. Cheers to House of the Dragon season 2. Let's now that we've wrapped up all of the negatives, with some positives thrown in there, let's get into our favorites.
So, of course, as favorites, we have to bring up one of our favorite ongoing bits that's been going on. Austin, who was your number 1 best fit pick of the entire season?
My favorite outfit in the entire season 2 House of the Dragon. This was a tough decision. Right off the bat, I should say that I think most of the decisions with this season were a little more clear cut than when we did this for the first.
Yes.
This was not one that was easier.
No, it was not.
And it came down to about 6 or 7 different options, of course.
Yep.
But I think I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball because this choice was never actually my number 1 in discussing the episodes. But as I've reflected on it, again, we only have that 30 minutes to prepare. Nobody did it better than Sir Simon Strong.
Yep.
Specifically, because he has a few different fits throughout the season, but the way that he looked in the scene with Oscar Tully and all of the Lords of the Riverland have gathered.
Yes.
Unbelievable. And I kind of came to a point where I accepted that whoever I picked just had to come from that scene because there were so many incredible outfits in that scene and a lot of variety. There's that lady that's in like the blue with the fur. That's going off in our coverage of episode 7. I ended up giving the fit pick to Oscar Tully because he's kind of got the orange and like the leather gloves and like the scaly looking armor.
And we can't discount Lord Peter Piper, who was in the blue sapphires over there.
Yeah, and you know, there's room if we wanted to. We could spend 25 minutes talking about each individual one.
Yes.
But reviewing it with a little distance from that initial watch, I love everything that's going on with Simon. It looks a little extra. It looks a little crusty.
Yes.
But it works for him. He makes that look good.
And I think because there's been so many memes of him giving the side eye to Damon, we've been getting to see a lot more of that fit a lot closer. And you can see the gold stitching in the purple where we may have not seen that up close. We said he looked good. Like, I think we even gave him not the runner up, but an honorary fit pick.
It was mentioned on the podcast, to be fair.
Yes. But I think that's a very appropriate pick there.
The last thing I'll say, because I do take like hair and makeup into account on this, and I just love his Snow White hair with like the uneven bangs across the top. It totally works for him, and it really pops with the rest of the fit. But I am eager to know who your pick was, because I assume that you would have said if you were feeling Simon too.
So we'll get back to Simon, but we kept talking this particular outfit up. It was an outfit that we have seen actually a couple times throughout the season. It was not in a single episode. It was in a couple episodes. And as much as I love the royal getup and the silks and the furs, you know I'm all about that armor.
Yeah.
You know I'm all about that plate. And especially when you see him sitting up on Caraxe's back, I have to give it to Daemon Targaryen's plate armor, where it has like the black plate, it has the shoulder blades, it has the dragon insignias that are like clashing with each other on the chest. It looks like a royal Targaryen's prince armor, where it's not just decorative, but it looks like you can take an axe to it and he's still gonna get back up swinging.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't really care if it's actual metal craft or if the thing is made of styrofoam. It looks legit.
Yes.
It has the shine. Like when he's first walking through Harrenhal, there, crazy. I mean, I gave him the fit pick for that episode.
Yeah.
So stellar pick. The armor work in this show continues to be amazing. So I appreciate that we are awarding that with one of the best.
Yes.
Now, real quick, would you like to hear my runner-up?
I would love to hear your runner-up.
I hope we can keep these relatively brief, like name it and then a sentence. My runner-up is going to be, as I deemed it before, Rhaenyra's red Emperor Palpatine robes in the claiming of Vermithor scene.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to get into it, but like the blood red, it's like a ceremony fit, and it sort of plays into how like she's getting a little more fanatical with her like role as like the savior of humanity, and just aesthetically, I think the red, the silver, and the way the necklace matched it all, excellent look. Did you have a runner up for me on the fit picks?
I'd love to give a whole breakdown on it, but you already did with your number one pick.
Yeah, baby.
It is Sir Simon Strong's purple and gold outfit.
That's what I want to look like at 60.
Yes.
Let's just let
I
it
look
be
like
known.
that at 40 over here.
At this rate. Trying to keep up one podcast a week. Holy.
But do we want to move on to our next award?
Yes, and I'm going to have you tell me your pick for the best supporting female performance after I let the audience know who is going to be in the leading category.
Yes.
Because we are breaking up by female, male best performances,
yes,
and then also by supporting and lead. Where this is a single show that we are talking about, the pool is not as open as something like the Oscars, the Golden Globes, and all of that. So we have chosen to designate 4 performances for the leading category, and everything else is available for supporting.
Yes.
So here, where I let you guys know what is nominated for leading, you know what is nominated for supporting.
And a quick note on that, we are giving it out to female characters and male characters.
Yeah, regardless of how the actor or actress or non-gender conforming performer presents in real life.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, well, this is a bit of ado, but let's get it through it.
Let's go.
The lead performers in competition for Best Male Performance are Ewan Mitchell for Aemon Targaryen, Fabian Frankel as Criston Cole, Matt Smith as Daemon Targaryen, and Tom Glencarney as Aegon Targaryen. And in the Best Lead Female Performance, we have Emma D'Arcy as Rhaenyra Targaryen, Eve Best as Rhaenys Targaryen, Olivia Cook as Alicent Hightower, and Sonia Mizuno as Lady Mysaria. So, with that clarified, who wins your Best Supporting Female Performance, Lizzy?
You know, this one I actually kept going back and forth. It's one that I really had to go back and watch a couple scenes because it was very clearly two actresses for me. It came down to these two actresses, but I kept switching them back and forth. And even to sitting down, like I've gone back and forth.
Dang.
But just seeing how they've interacted, and I feel like they've done an amazing job as a supporting actress, and just how they've been able to support the characters around them, specifically how she was able to support Jace throughout the season. I'm awarding it to Bethany Antonia. I know we were giving her a little bit of grief during her riding the dragon scene, but I just really thought that, again, their on-screen chemistry seemed very, like, as much as I love Harry Collette, he has Labrador energy. So like, I feel like he could get along and have chemistry with any female actress on screen. So I really am giving Bethany the credit for really making this seem like a formal royal relationship. And again, like whenever they came together, it was really convincing and selling to me. So, and I really, again, attribute that to her, even though I know Harry Collette was doing a great job.
I will reveal at this point that this was my runner-up. And my big thing there is just, I feel like Bethany brings a warmth to the show that isn't really present in any other characters. And that's interesting because that's not the first thing you think of with most Game of Thrones House of the Dragon characters. So I appreciate that she is bringing something unique to the table, and you really feel that in her scenes.
But I also, like, I agree with that, but I'll also push back where you see that flair where she is channeling her Daemon Targaryen. Like when she's giving the report of nearly Dracarysing Criston Cole, like she's like, yeah, I got close.
Or when she rejects Corlys's offer to make her his heir. There's some strength to go with it. She's not soft. That's why I say she brings a warmth.
Yes. I'm not correct. I'm just saying, like, I love that balance that she has.
Great pick. Would you like to know mine?
Absolutely.
And I'm okay. So mine is best supporting female performance. It's gotta be Pia Sabin as Elena Targaryen.
I want to hear your make the case to me.
Okay. I think, and we're talking more about the performance than the actual character.
Okay.
I mean, they can't help but inform the other, but I think that she gets that it's all in the eyes, and she has great power in her performance with the eyes, especially in like the blood and cheese scene where, you know, some book readers feel like that didn't really go far enough, but I think that the greatest source of the horror and like how we as the audience feel that in that scene is through her performance there. Also, I just love a weird character, and there's something to how she legitimately feels like this person, for better or worse. Like she's spacey and weird and has some unconventional interests, but none of that ever feels put on.
Yeah.
And not to like discredit the actress, but there's a very cute interview clip out there where somebody asked her what her favorite bugs are. And the way that she answered, it's almost like it's in character.
Least favorite bug's really hard. I don't even like killing mosquitoes, but maybe I would say mosquitoes because, you know, I'm going to veto the ones that carry diseases. And my favorite bug, Oh, I love crickets.
So I think that's a great bit of casting, and that everything that she's been called on to do in the show, she's nailed.
I agree. Like I can see that. I wish that I would have considered her for one of these.
Well, you see, it's the interiority. And that's a tough thing to do as a performer, is for them to be like, and this is what's going on in your mind, and you need to communicate that to the audience without actually saying anything.
Yeah.
And I think that she's very expressive and intense as a performer.
Yes.
Now, did you have a different runner-up on this?
I did have a different runner-up. I really think that Gail Rankin was really selling at Alice.
Right.
And it's very similar for very similar reasons. She was playing a weird character, maybe not as weird as Helena, but very much a mysterious witch-like character who wants to be involved, but she also doesn't want people to know she's involved. And she definitely is playing, like she made that little line that she's an owl, that she could be an owl. And I almost felt like she was, like, figuratively an owl that was just perching and watching and like whispering in Damon's ear all throughout his time during Hair in Hell. And I know that we give not necessarily her a bad rap, but just Hair in Hell in general a bad rap. But I think for what she was doing there and just the mysterious character she was playing, she did a really good job. And I also enjoy how much was left open for us, the audience, to interpret what her play was at and what she was necessarily doing, and really how much she was involved. And maybe that could be just a lot of what the character was, but I also think that she as an actress was really bringing that.
I am still legitimately waiting. Like, she could be an owl. She said she's an owl. We're going to have like an Animorph moment in season 3. Just you wait. Or not. I don't know.
Who knows? But you already gave me, Austin, your runner-up, but I would love to know who the best supporting male lead is. I mean, best supporting male character.
Performance.
Yes.
Okay, so out of competition are Aemon Targaryen, Kristen Cole, Daemon Targaryen, and Aegon Targaryen. Everybody else is available. This was a slam dunk.
Okay.
If we're bumping Rhys Ifans down to the supporting character category, then he takes it in a walk. The presence that he has in every scene is fantastic. I love how conniving he is. I love seeing him be good at things, and he's good at a great many things in this show.
Yes.
The like freak out scene on Aegon that you were referring to over the whole Ratcatcher situation, where he really just lets loose on his grandson there, is phenomenal. It's Rhys Ifans. And the last thing I'll say to support my pick here is that I feel like the absence of Rhys Ifans has become the go-to argument for any time anything happens in the show somebody doesn't like. They're like, and we haven't even had any scenes of Otto, so it becomes this whole, like, they chose to include this, but we don't get an update on Otto. That's because we miss him. I miss him. I don't know about you, the biggest Otto hater of us all.
Here's the thing. I miss him. I need him. I miss hating someone that much on camera.
But was he your best supporting actor pick for the Big Lizzy?
He was my runner-up.
Okay.
And you couldn't have said it better for the runner-up. For me, I'm going to go I don't want to say rogue, but it's not necessarily how the character, how this character was throughout the entire season, but it was one scene in particular that it was just so powerful and so moving. And
I think I know where you're going.
Like, it was, for me, just such a big moment for this character in particular, even though we didn't really see that much. And I made sure to type out how to pronounce his name because it's a mouthful, but Abu Bakar Salim.
Okay, not what I was expecting, but thank you.
But he was my number one for best actor, and particularly his scene with Corlys. Like, I rewatched that scene, and just the raw emotion that because you can feel like he's a character that's been bottling that up for years and years and years.
Essentially his whole life.
Yes.
And that's felt when it comes out.
Exactly. And for me, he sold it so well. Like, it felt real. It felt meaningful, and especially where it's Corliss, where he's such a powerful figure, especially when he's all in his getup. Like, I'm sure there's a level of, even though they're actors, there's a level of intimidation just with how incredible that is. Like, and he was bringing it. He was bringing that level of intensity. And again, I know it's sort of unceremoniously just providing it in one sequence, but that scene in particular for me was what sold it for me, for him to be the best supporting.
He
character.
was listed as my runner-up until I remembered who had to go in that slot for me. So I'm fully with you on that. But my honorable mention has to go to Archie Barnes as Oscar Tully for like maybe my favorite scene in the entire show. We already talked about how the fits went off there, but the like weirdly like weary intelligence that is portrayed in this character, and that he can walk into that scene being literally smaller in stature than everybody else there and make such an impact.
Yes.
Where like I rewatched that scene last night, the one that he has with Damon first, and then they go out and talk to everybody, and he's like on Damon's level. Like you notice Damon's reactions there. Like he's like low-key admiring the work that this young man is doing in dealing with all of the lords of the Riverland.
Yes.
So for that, it's going to Archie. I'm so excited for this character. Like I really hope this isn't all that we're getting from him.
I have a feeling we're going to see a little bit. He's probably not going to be like an every episode sort of character.
That's what I'm worried, that we've already had his biggest scene, but I hope not.
I hope not either. But we're going to be shifting gears a little bit, going from actors and actresses to sequences, correct?
Yes, and you're up first to let me know your best dragon moment.
I feel like it's a given, and maybe it's not, but it was just so awesome. I mean, it's a peak.
There are really only two.
I mean, I actually broke it down. There were a couple that, for me, that I was juggling with for the runner-up. But I will say, and here's the thing, like I got specific because this scene is such a big scene, but Vhagar versus Meleys specifically, when they were fighting each other, that was my favorite dragon moment, because you just have two dragons that are war weary, know what they're doing, going at it, and especially when they're just doing their spiral of death down to the ground, like it's just incredible. And I mean, the emotion of when Meleys is killed, you feel that for an
absolutely
computer animated creature.
Yeah, and that is like playing into just how well realized these creatures are here. I think that's a great pick, because that is adding to the dragon lore that exists in this, where we haven't seen a lot of proper like dragon on dragon violence, and we're kind of getting a sense of how they engage with that. And you see them how they like latch on as if they're birds of prey fighting, and then they're just spewing fire as they spin toward the earth. Incredible moment. That actually was my runner-up, but to me, that was decidedly the runner-up.
Okay.
Because I think the claiming of Vermithor takes it.
That was my runner-up, so...
Naturally. Incredible moment. One of the biggest highlights in the season. Like with the Battle of Rook's Rest, it's adding to the lore of the dragon. We get to see how the claiming goes about. Even though we've kind of seen that before, this is in a different context.
Yeah.
We get some real personality from I might have said Vhagar, but Vermithor in this scene. You really feel, I think this is the best representation of one of the creatures in the show, where what you're talking about before, it looks great, but it is kind of like two CGI renderings meeting in the air. This has more interaction with our human characters, which one makes it a little bit more of an emotional scene, but also raises the stakes for rendering that as a digital artist. And I think that they knocked it out of the park.
I couldn't have said it better for why it's my runner-up right there.
Now, I feel like we should probably just move on, because we might be talking about some of the same sequences for the Best Action Sequence Award.
Yeah, I mean, This one I was more broad.
I think I'm supposed to go first on this one.
Possibly.
If I may.
No,
Sorry, I kind
just
of led
kidding.
myself in. So my pick for the best action sequence is obviously the Battle of Rook's Rest, the Battle of Rook's Rest, and I made a specific note for when Vhagar and Meleys engage. Like if I have to narrow it down to one moment, that's it.
I feel like we have to, just for episode 4, call it Rook's Roost, just for what I think that's notable. This is our first award that we both name it number 1.
So that's the first bipartisan Big Lizzy of the evening.
Yeah, but break it down.
Our first BBL.
Our first BBL. Break it down why it's the BBL, Austin.
This is a killer sequence. And to expand it out a little bit more, to look at the scope of the battle, you're getting dragon action, dragon on dragon action. You're getting some legitimate, like classic, like medieval siege action, and all of it is just fantastically rendered.
Yes.
It's also really interesting to see the strategy of it all play out, where it's kind of like they're attacking in the day. What's going on here? Oh, but Cole has made this deal with Aemond where Vhagar's going to show up, but now Sunfire's showing up, and that's unplanned. So it is a sequence that really keeps you on your toes, just story-wise, but then also delivers on the action.
Yes.
I think it's a clear-cut winner here.
And just to add on to that, for me, I really enjoy that it gives us the horrors of war as well. I feel like so many movies and shows, they'll show the actual fight, they'll show the actual battle, but they'll like, oh, it's sad, we lost our friends, yada, yada, yada. But they don't really show like, no, you see people that are just in horrific pain, but still alive. You see people that are no longer even like have a physical body, like just unimaginable things. And they were like bringing that as much and as close that they could.
Yeah, that the Cole's like Saving Private Ryan walk that he does at the end of episode 4 is one of the most powerful sequences in the season.
Yes.
I'd have to say.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if that properly counts as part of the action sequence, but it all kind of feeds into it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. What's your runner-up then?
The Claiming of Vermithor. And I'm not sure that I have a great deal more to say. I'm not the hugest. The reason this is decidedly under Rook's Rest is that I'm not the biggest fan of the oneer that they do. At the end of that, to me, the chaos at the beginning is a little bit more exciting. Once they go into the oneer, it gets kind of showy, and the cuts that they were adding were like hidden, yes, and like relatively well done, but the fact that there was a cut there was pretty obvious. So that brings it down a bit, just a little bit for me. But again, the CGI is wonderful and the violence is glorious. So did you pick something else?
I did, and because
was it the mud fight?
I thought about it. I genuinely thought about it. But just because you gave the description of the BBL, I want to just dive into this one a little bit. I chose, and it was a fight sequence we saw early on in the season, and it honestly was really moving, but it was the duel between Eric and Arik.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so well done, choreographed. Like, they were, and I went and watched the behind the scenes when they were specifically talking about it and how they were like taking blow for blow in the same exact spots. And I also really love, again, I know at the end it was Eric who committed seppuku at the end, but I love the idea of where we don't know who it was. And you could also make an argument that it was Arik that could have performed it at the end for just the horror of realizing he just killed his brother. It was just such a moving scene. It was so well like choreographed and
visceral, like kind of ugly fighting.
Yeah. And you could feel that they were giving it their all. And yeah, I have to.
I fully agree with you. We should probably try and keep it a little more concise, both of us, on the runner-up descriptions. But there's just a lot, like, on all these categories, there's a lot of good in this season.
Yeah, that's the takeaway. There's a lot of good in this season. We can't look at all the bad.
Which maybe we should just make that clear, too, because, like, even for all that discussion we had at the beginning, like, there's just a lot about this show that appeals to me on a fundamental level, and watching the craft scene to scene is honestly enough sustenance for me. Like
Yeah.
good storytelling and performances are like frosting on top.
I'm curious to see, and I know we need to move along, but I'm curious to see if there's some TV shows that are meant to be binge watched, and it's better. The show is better when you binge watch it versus watching it week to week. I am very curious to see if this is one of those shows.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because my perspective on season 1 was a little different when I watched it the first time just in one go because I was late on it versus when I came back to do it for the podcast week to week. That one I would say works either way, probably benefits from tighter viewing than the pace at which it was released.
Well, and the time jumps also help, so you don't necessarily have to binge watch. Like if you binge watch it, like, yeah, you can enjoy the time jumps, but with this, all of this probably happened in the span of a few months for season 2, while season 1, it was literally years, decades.
I could see that lending itself more to a binge. You knock out the thing in a week.
Yeah.
We'll find out, I'm sure.
We'll find out.
But right now, we're about to find out your pick for the best set or location.
Isn't it obvious?
Do we want to say it at the same time?
3, 2, 1. The Airy.
Hell. What?
God damn it. Well, I was confident that it was going to be the Airy.
Well, let's have you start us off.
It was beautiful. It was amazing. The castle that you could see in the background, it just looked like a beacon that was up on a hill.
It is magnificent, and that was my whole thing. Like, I can't argue too much because I'm on record as being like, I don't care that the Rhaena stuff didn't pay off just because I like seeing the cinematography they managed in Wales. It looks beautiful. And maybe we should split this category up in the future, because what you're talking about is location. What I'm talking about is a set.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an apples to oranges, but the train can't stop now. So,
well, ironically,
finish your thought.
It's just beautiful, and I feel like there's not too much else to say other than Wales is beautiful.
That legitimately was my runner-up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you were close, but I think that Harrenhal is the best set that's been in the show so far.
Set, yes. Harrenhal's the best set. Wales is the best location.
I could get behind that. But as far as Harrenhal, I keep saying it Harrenhal and Hell. I go back and forth so that I piss off everybody. Is a great set with a lot of personality.
Yes.
In our initial coverage, I compared it to the set for Doggldur in the Hobbit films, but I honestly think that this does it better. It's a lot better lit, and it feels more real for that. I like how wet it is all the time, and that's again where with the personality, where like when Damon's trying to sleep and there are just like 15 different leaks going on. It's the type of place that, for however you feel about like his weird dream sequences and how Damon's just tripping balls through this entire season at Harrenhal, it feels like a place that more likely than not is haunted and has crazy secrets and like blood-stained carpets and all of that.
Yes.
So, not my favorite aspect to the show for like the drama that played out there, but the setting was second to none.
And allow me just to add on, because this is my runner-up. And specifically, I just love just that rugged ancient castle look that it has, like the weirwood, like everything's crumbled out there. When we're on the outside, it looks like a volcano with all the rock runoff. Like it just visually looks amazing as a castle in general. And like you said it best, it looks haunted, but it also looks old. Like I'm sure people in that world look at Harrenhal and they're like, oh, that's an old ancient castle, like older than other castles.
Well, with that behind us, that little kerfuffle, should we move on?
I don't know how difficult this one was for you, Austin, but
a little tricky.
I felt like I was able to actually narrow it down to at least 5 pretty quickly for these.
I went. So we're talking best track from the score.
Yes.
And I'm going first.
You're going first. So
Okay.
break it down for me.
So this is a little bit tricky, I say, because the official release of the score came out at the same time as the season finale.
Yes.
I already said it's been 2 days since then, so not as much time to digest that as I would like, but I did get a couple full listens in on it, and I went through, I executed the same method as I did last time, where I listened through the whole thing, selected the tracks that I felt like were contenders for the best pick, and then gave that playlist a couple more listens. In the future, I may feel slightly different, but the one that I'm actually going with as my pick for the best track from the score is called A Matter of Honor.
Okay.
Do you know what the one I'm talking about?
I believe so.
It plays when Sir Criston Cole executes Gunther Darklin
Yes.
in episode 4. This score overall, compared to the first season, is a lot darker, a lot more sinister, and this is super representative of that. I think this is one of the darkest moments in the show, honestly, and like is really exhibiting the descent of Cole's character. The track actually isn't that long, but what it builds to right in its final moments is like heavy. It's huge, massive. I would love to see this music repurposed for one of the big dragons, the Vagars, the Vermithors in the future.
I will say, like, that was in my runnings. However, for me, like, I needed consistently, and just the beginning was a little too slow for me. Like, the ending,
Totally fair.
Like, the ending, again, amazing. But for me, especially with some of these songs that were just consistently good, and this one was tied to a sequence that already had a ton of money going towards it, so it already it had the money already funneled, and it was just a consistent banger all throughout it. All Must Choose is what got mine. It was what the show ended on. Like,
yeah.
And I think if we go back, like, I made an audible reaction to hearing the music starting to play during it. It's just,
it's a shame that all of that is going to be tied to like kind of a letdown.
Yes.
That the montage there is extremely well executed.
Yes.
It is just a fantastic bit of editing, staging, costuming, and music, as you're saying. So I think you're fully justified in picking that as the best piece of music. I think that is arguable as the climax. If you're just listening to the score on its own, that feels like the biggest moment in the entire thing. I think it's I think it's like the last track, if not the second.
It is the last track.
There you go. Also, you kind of catch Ramin Djawadi, your boy.
My number one every year, baby.
On the Spotify Wrapped.
Oh, it's Spotify.
Yeah, it's already, you know it. But you catch him taking notes from that Hans Zimmer Dune 2 score.
Yes.
Especially in the vocals there at the end. But I do not mind at all, because that is some of the finest film music to come out this decade.
There
so
are
far.
worse projects to take note from.
Yeah, I'd say any serious score composer should be taking notes.
Yes. But give me your runner-up. Let's hear it.
So again, with how I like how the score takes a bit more of a sinister tone, there were a couple tracks that really used strings to great effect there, conveying sort of a mania. And I really enjoyed the track A Sun for a Sun.
That was my runner-up as well.
There we go. I could have just as easily given it to The Feeling of Betrayal, because I think that track's doing the same thing.
Yes.
But yeah, this track, it gives that like blood and cheese tragedy. Like this reached to that level. The music did. I don't know if that's something that people keep saying. It's weird that at the beginning of the season hasn't really been referenced back to, or like seemed to have had a great impact on the characters throughout the show. But the music was there.
Yes. And that's why we do this, Austin. We break down all the positives that are in the show so we can remind everyone that there was some good things that came out.
Indeed.
We don't have to scream at Ryan every day, only every other. But yeah, I agree. And if you go back and watch Blood and Cheese, it really does just enhance that experience. Now, it's just such an intense moment that I don't think you're really taking in the music at the time, but it's one of those things that if you do play, like have no music at all, it doesn't hit. That scene doesn't hit as hard.
Fully agree. Shame that it couldn't get the main because we both did it as a runner-up, but let's forget about it and move on.
Forget about it.
I went first on that one, so I would like to know your pick for best lead male performance. And I can run down the nominees one more time.
Let's do it one more time.
All
for
right.
The best male.
So we have Ewan Mitchell as Aemon Targaryen, Fabian Frankel as Kristen Cole, Matt Smith as Daemon Targaryen, and Tom Glencarney as Aegon Targaryen.
So I just want to first start off saying, both with my number 1 and number 2, if you would have told me at the beginning of this show that these would be my number 1s and number 2s, I would have laughed at you and not thought this possible. But particularly the number 1 was obvious to me. Like, it was a cakewalk, and you just have to give it, because in every aspect he did a great job. But it was Tom Glencarney. Like,
same for me. That's a BBL.
That's a BBL. Like, he was funny. Like, he genuinely was funny. Like, he played being ignorant pretty well as well. He played when he was like, even when he was harassing his brother, like in the inn, or like all those times you can really see Tom. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying I approve of Aegon's actions.
It's the whole, like, just because you like the movie Goodfellas doesn't mean you think everybody should be like a gangbanger.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
it's not depiction is not like approval.
Well, and I mean, just the range he had as well, because the pain he was feeling in episode 2, where he was just throwing everything, and then how he was lashing out at Otto and lashing out in general, and then being reckless, and the pain that he was feeling when he was in recovery, like all of that just adds up to the point of, I think it's just a clear cut. He did an amazing job.
Yeah, this was maybe the easiest decision of this entire thing for me.
Yes.
And it's everything that you're saying. I think that he demonstrated his abilities in a number of contexts. Like his like big emotional moments. I'm thinking about like when he's like trashing the old Valyria model, which, you know, was an emotional scene just in and of itself for what that represents.
He almost lost the Lizzy for that.
But the rage that he depicts in that, or then later when you see him like mourning the death of his son, when Alicent just decides to not engage with that. Very big moments of acting, but totally sold, like unself-conscious from Tom there.
No, exactly.
And it's the trick that he does, which is low-key the thing that every performer has to consciously be aware of in this show, where everybody being depicted, I mean, you could make an argument for like 1 or 2 people, but the vast majority of characters in this show are like awful people.
Yes.
Who have committed atrocities and killed people, and it's just totally unacceptable, and it's fruitless to try and defend any of that. But I do think it says a lot how everybody was propping up this character this season. Like, he's clearly a fan favorite at this point, to where like we have our whole bit where we talk about Daemon defense. Like, if that's a problem, like Aegon defense has been out of control this season.
It definitely has. And I have a feeling that we might have to develop a green button.
Yeah. When the show comes back in 2 years, let's quick mental note on that. But that's what I'm saying though. It's like he seems very aware of, like, he's not trying to like create a character that we're like rooting for and like putting posters up in our dorm rooms. He's creating like a complex character that has emotions and can be all of these different things for the show, which is what the show is built on.
Oh, of course. I couldn't have said it better right there.
You want to hit me with your runner-up?
For my runner-up, when I say this, if it wasn't for such a strong performance, like this character had just such a good performance that I did have to think about it for a second, but after reflecting over the season, it was clear like, oh, he has to have it. Fabian Franco's Kristen Cole really brought it this season. And
that is also my runner-up. So
we got a double BBO.
oh my God.
But just the range that he was pulling, because at the beginning where he's acting as this just anger-filled person who's lashing out and taking his frustrations out on everyone, to being this ruthless leader where he's going and just killing everybody who stands in his way, to being this horrified, like, what is going on sort of figure as war, and just to the point where he is now, where he's like, okay, I'm doing my duty, but like, what's the point of any of this right now? Like,
yeah, especially post Rook's rest, he is demonstrating like depression and like PTSD, and like I think really selling that. I think it's like a whole body thing with his performance there.
Yes, for the PTSD, but I'd even argue like leading up in the episode of Rook's Rest, you can see he's a man who is completely swamped with what his response. Like
when he gets named Hand,
yeah,
and he's just like, oh, there's a lot of power in his quiet like terror.
Yes.
At those small council scenes where he feels totally out of his depth.
Well, even when the song that you highlighted, when he executes Lord Darkland, like the way he's just moving around, like even though he had a great victory, he doesn't look like a leader who just had a great victory. It's literally like, all right, what's the next?
This is what I'm doing, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Do you have anything else that you want to highlight for?
No, I think you about nailed it. And we are crossing the hour mark here.
Okay, well, we've only got 3 awards left. So hit me with your best lead female performance.
Which, once again, the performances in competition are Emma D'Arcy as Rhaenyra Targaryen, Eve Best as Rhaenys Targaryen, Olivia Cook as Alicent Hightower, and Sonia Mizuno as Lady Mysaria. And the pick is Olivia Cook.
Of course, as Team Green over there.
That one, I think the glasses better go back on. Because I think that Olivia Cook is arguably doing the best work acting-wise in the entire show. And it is a bit thankless for the problems in the writing of her character, but she brings it so hard in every damn scene. This is exactly what I'm talking about, where even when things are so contrived in her meetings with Rhaenyra, I can't help but get a lot out of those scenes just because of how much emotion and interiority both actors are bringing to those scenes. And I think that the show was low-key forced to lean on her in a lot of those moments.
Yeah.
And she rose the occasion. Like I think just based on your expression here, the critique is that a lot of her scenes aren't like the most memorable or exciting scenes in the entire show. Like they don't have anybody to pair her up with. We lose Otto early in the season, which was a great dynamic between the two of them. To get her in the same room as D'Arcy takes all of this nonsense, and they keep pairing her up with the Grand Maester for some reason, which is totally fruitless. But what she brings to those scenes makes them passable.
Here's the thing.
Almost single-handedly from her effort.
For me, my number 1 pick was an obvious pick for me. But for the runner-up, it was really close. And Olivia Cook did keep coming back and forth with that. But we'll get to my runner-up. How can you not show the queen who never was the respect that she deserved? Because she was killing it in those first 4 episodes. Like I know she wasn't in the remainder of the season, but Eve Best was killing it in episode 1, in episode 2, in episode 3. And how can you not like She was amazing during Rook's Rest.
I hear you. I hear you.
Again, I know only 4 episodes to see it, but she brought it, and I think she'll go down as one of the most missed characters in this show.
I think that that's a sure bet.
And again, like the chemistry that she has with Corliss all throughout it too, like that level of chemistry, you really just can't.
Yeah, and she can sort of play the tenderness and the like battle-hardened warrior.
Yes.
Like I'm still a little iffy on like the dragon back sequences. But she really brought it in those. I think her contributions there were some of the most believable, where that's a tricky thing as a performer, where you're just in this like totally like green screen room on like a mechanical bowl, and they're like, no, you're on a dragon and you're turning around so that you can torch all of these men on the, and it's tricky, but she totally rises to the challenge, and of course will be missed. I also think it just says a lot that like we had a conversation before we were prepping to do this record. We're like, okay, well, who's going into the leading category? And it wasn't even a discussion. It's like obvious, like, yeah, she's only in the first half, but this is a leading performance. Yes. And I think that says a lot.
Exactly. But
who was your runner-up though?
My runner-up is D'Arcy.
Also my runner-up.
Like D'Arcy, like as Rhaenyra Targaryen, real like the level of just raw emotion that D'Arcy was able to depict with Rhaenyra was incredible. And you could see how they were bringing that level of just, again, I say this in the most loving and admiration. They were bringing that cult leader-like energy throughout, and you could see that level of confidence that they were bringing in, and you could see they were, especially right after Vermithor was claimed, that just like, I did it.
Yes. And honestly, I could just summarize by saying everything that I said about Olivia Cook in this season, I can say to a slightly lesser degree about Emma D'Arcy.
Yes.
Where a lot of their scenes aren't maybe the wisest direction or the best written thing the show has ever produced, but they are decidedly elevated for this performer's presence in them.
Yes. Both the queens were bringing queen energy this season.
Absolutely.
All 3 of the queens were bringing queen energy this season.
Would you care to move on to our best performance by an actor we're unlikely to see again?
Is it obvious?
Yeah.
Eve Best.
Eve Best, yes.
Number 1.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear, though, your runner-up on this one.
Well, I will just say on Eve Best, a comment that I was reserving is where in that very first episode, you see her have that scene with Damon where he's sort of trying to boss her around, that she can go toe-to-toe with Matt Smith's presence in the episode is saying a great deal.
Yes.
And I think that we've already outlined she has a lot of different modes and brought a lot to the show. Gonna be missed. My runner-up is going to... I'm cheating. I'm giving it to Elliot and Luke Tittensor.
Same.
You had the same idea.
I had the same idea.
It's allowed then.
Cheers. Oh, I mean, they both killed it. Like, they were very much background characters, but we did get to see a lot more than we were seeing from Kingsguard. And we saw the conflict in both of them. And just that last scene where you're seeing Arik go through Dragonstone to get to Rhaenyra, and then the duel between Eric and Arik, and just the level of raw emotion and just...
I think that they landed at least the runner-up just from that final battle.
Yes, exactly.
There was just so much emotion in that. And they're doing good work throughout, including in season 1. But yeah, just it had to go to best.
Well, just the fact that we thought that they were one actor at the beginning. Like, again, I know that says more about them being twins, but like just how they are able to mirror each other so well.
Yeah. And they're chemistry is maybe not the right word, but their dynamic
Yes.
is really felt. Well, these performers are in real life brother. I think that they bring that history to the characters.
Yes.
And some depth that isn't necessarily outlined, but is felt in the final result.
Of course. Austin, it's time.
The big Lizzy.
The big Lizzy is here. Now, I'm not going to make the same mistake that we made earlier, but I have a feeling that we might be on the same page.
I don't know if we are.
You don't know.
No, and I think it's to me to go first.
It is to you to go first. So I want to tell me why you picked it before you give the big reveal. Or do you need to give me the big? Do you need to tell me why?
No, I'll draw it out here. We'll have a little fun. What to say to not give it away just off the bat? It was pretty close. It wasn't a clear-cut thing. And you could ask me a few days from now, and maybe my number two pick, my runner-up, is my number one. But I think that this is an episode that delivers on all of those aspects that we talked about. What makes the show great? It has great action and great drama. It is bringing some character development where it's not necessarily the episode where everything is paid off, but it is where a lot of things are reaching near culmination. Because my pick for the best episode in House of the Dragon Season 2 is episode 7.
It's my number one too.
A BBL again.
Oh, if you look at the tape, I have a thing for episode 7s apparently, because episode 7 was my pick for season 1. But no, it was like the claiming of Vermithor was so satisfying. It was very much just such an intense moment. And even though it wasn't sword on sword violence, you were still just getting this level of chaos and
yeah, you don't have to convince me. I gave it the best dragon moment.
And that's the moment that switched. Like, it's a complete turn, because up to this point, Team Green was clearly
had the edge. Yes.
Not only the edge, but you could make the argument that, like, what can Team Black do? Like, there's really nothing at this point. Like, it's either going to take a full-on assault where they take all their dragons and swarm Vhagar, and there's still a chance that Team Green comes out of it. Or
I hear what you're saying. Like, this is the pivotal moment in this season where, like, yeah, Rook's Rest is like, that you leave that episode like, damn, that's going to be tough to recover from. You leave this episode like, damn, the tables have turned.
And this might be controversial, but if we are sticking with this 8 episode, I almost like, again, we texted about this and you were like, if we wanted to save money, we'd do it. But I honestly think if we would have ended the show with Vhagar coming up and seeing the dragons just all flying around, I would have been a lot more satisfied.
Because that's the take that's getting a little bit of traction here, is that they should have just called it after episode 7, which even ends with what feels like it could have been a super satisfying finale shot with Rhaenyra walking up and the 3 dragons behind her.
Yes, and we still would have gotten an action sequence. Like, I saw a lot of people laughing that the most action we saw in the finale was a mud fight. Like, that was
yeah, and there is kind of a history with Game of Thrones House of the Dragon where they allow for a bit of a cool down episode at the end of the season, but they didn't really perform that maneuver appropriately.
Yeah.
In this case, so this is to say I agree with you. And, like, in most cases I'm like, yeah, if I can get more of the show earlier, like, why not? But I think that it would have proved a more satisfying audience experience if they had just stuck to the 7 episodes and then called it good. And then like imagine if after the finale next week we were getting another episode. Like if it was just a 1 week wait, fantastic. The problems evaporate. Yes. And I don't even care about like the variable season lengths. Like, it would not bother me at all if we had 10 episodes of the first season, 7 episodes in the second, and 14 in the third.
Yes.
But alas, we have what we have, and it is what it is.
And we do need to move on to our runner-ups, but I just want to make this one last point. They make it seem like that season 3 is just going to be kicking off and it's going to be full throttle with everything. I don't think I'm
worried it's not going to be.
And that's where I'm like, if they would have saved episode 8 to be episode 1 in season 3, I feel like that could have been a good ramp up. But again, shoulda, coulda, woulda. What do we do?
The last thing I'll mention on episode 7 is that it is the best fit episode. and we've already kind of outlined that with the ultimate fits, but that is a big thing for me. And even its weaker moments, like as we've deemed it, Allison's Hot Girl Summer, beautifully photographed, doesn't overstay its welcome in my opinion. Yeah. I think that it is the sturdiest episode overall.
Of course.
Do you want to, or, oh no, it's me for the runner-up.
What's your runner-up, Austin?
And I'll try and keep this fairly quick because I do want us to wrap up. But yes. My runner-up's episode 2.
Same.
Ah, right. Love it. And we've talked enough about the ending there with the Eric and Auric.
Yes.
So I don't think we need to get into all of that, but I've said it before also that I think director Claire Kilner has a better grasp on the characters and what makes for interesting moments, large and small, than any of the other directors they've pulled for this series. Also, this has that scene that we've referenced with Otto chewing out Aegon, which is fantastic, and Cole getting promoted. The scene with Rhaenyra and Daemon, where it's not so much an argument as like maybe their relationship falling apart. The setup there promised a season that was not as satisfactory as would have, like, if they'd have landed the potential from that scene in the rest of the season, I think we'd be having a very different conversation at the top of this episode.
Of course. And the only thing that I really just want to even emphasize, because you did touch on it, I don't think we really have a need for making this award, but if we did, like if there was an award for just best dialogue moment, Otto and Aegon's little argument easily would have taken the cake. Like, I legitimately thought about making episode 2 my number 1 strictly just off of that sequence alone. And
it sounds like you're really missing this Otto character.
I hated.
It feels like he brought something to the show that you enjoyed on some level.
He brought feelings to me that I just don't know how to accept.
Well, I'm sure that he'll be back, and hopefully we'll get caught up on his misadventures in the meantime. But that's our show. The big Lizzy Awards, also known as the Lizzys. Yeah. We have another piece of House of the Dragon content on the way. If you're watching this in the not so distant future or beyond, you should be able to watch us discuss. I mean, we just gave out the best episode Lizzy, which is a big one, but equally big is the best dragon award.
Yeah.
Which will be given out when we do our dragon grades for season 2. Yeah. So check that out or subscribe to catch it when it does drop.
Yeah. Also, feel free, share it, like it, comment below. What did we get right? What did we get right? What did we get wrong?
And I mean, on top of that, we have like 18 episodes discussing the show. So if you're itching for long form content, we got you covered.
That we do.
But until all of that, we'll see you next time.
Good night.